Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Comstock channel. I'm Marlin Bohling with you. Thank you so much for joining us. Just a reminder, once again, make sure you like this video and subscribe to this video so you can get reminded of new updates that are coming out, and share it with others too so we can spread the message. Appreciate that very much. It helps with our algorithm. Well, let's bring in John Sjaarda, and John happens to be a farmer in South Dakota. He also happens to be a state representative from the 2nd District in South Dakota. And John, it's an honor to get to talk to you. Right off the top here, if you would, give me an idea of how the spring is progressing so far, or has it become spring yet where you are?
Well, thank you, Marlon. I'm glad to be here. Spring came really early. March too. I was disking corn stalks and out in the field. The land was working up really good. Got some tillage done ahead of time. Since we had the first day of spring, also winter came back, so we've had some cold weather and snow since then, but some much needed moisture. So we're in good shape now. We got the oats in before the snow. We're ready to go. Got the planter ready to go. As soon as it dries up in a few weeks, we'll be hitting it hard, I think. So,
How do you think you are on subsoil moisture right now? Has it been rebuilt yet or not?
Christmas time we had an inch or two. We had an inch of moisture in the form of snow and rain a week ago. Another half inch yesterday. So we're not empty, but we're definitely not full either. So kind of right in the middle somewhere there.
Well, now, last year was kind of a tough year for a lot of farmers all around the grain belt, the plains and parts of the Midwest. How did you guys fare there?
We In the middle of summer, it looked like it was going to be a disaster. Like I didn't know if our corn was going to have ears on it. It was all curled up all summer long, didn't rain, and somehow we got an average crop. It wasn't above average, but it was average. I was shocked to hit our APH and stuff. So I don't know where it came from, or if it can do it again, or if that's the new normal now. But it was a surprise. So
Now, are you all dry land there, or do you have some irrigation?
all dry land. Yeah, no
Okay, so that
irrigation.
makes it especially tough then,
Right,
if the
right,
weather doesn't cooperate there.
right.
Um, all right, I wanted to talk with you. I know since you're in the legislature, I know you're kind of in the middle of a whole bunch of debates that have been going on related to, for one thing, the carbon pipelines that have been proposed in that area. The big one now, I guess, is Summit, that's still in the running there. But there has been some debate about how to allow that, how to proceed with allowing, I guess, permits to build a pipeline and that sort of thing. That's been a big hot topic in the state house there. Now, the governor signed a bill a while back, correct? And I wondered if you could tell me about that bill, what was in it, and you're actually working with a group that has kind of a counterpoint to that. And I wanted to get your take on this. So, first of all, we're talking about, was it House Bill 201?
Senate bill,
Senate Bill
SB
201?
201.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So first off, everybody ties this that if you're against the pipeline, you're against ethanol. And I want to start off by saying I'm a big ethanol supporter. I've always been since it started. Along with David too. I sell a lot of my corn to ethanol plants. I feed the distillers. I use the E85 in my vehicle. So, and ethanol is important to me. So we have to separate that. This is about landowner rights. And if they want, if they want to build their pipeline, I'm all for that. I'm not all for it, but I think it's not the best thing to do. But anyway, landowner rights are what's important. So what SB 201 did, our counties in South Dakota made, regulations where you can build it, where you can't build it. In Minnehaha County, where I live, they put a 330-foot restriction around the property line where you can't have a pipeline in that area. That seemed pretty reasonable. Other counties have a longer, restriction. Others don't have any. So what 201 did is said no county can do that. They can, build a pipeline wherever they want as long as the PUC says that it's okay. And it had some other things too. It tried to give $1 per foot to the landowners. They end up changing it to make it $1 per foot off their taxes as long as the government payments are still going, which they could end in a few years, and that goes away. So there's a few things that tried to give to landowners, which nothing more than landowners could negotiate for themselves from the pipeline companies. But the biggest thing is it took the counties right away to regulate where the pipelines can go.
So now, how does this work? From what I understand, now the governor did sign the bill, but it sounds to me like there's actually an effort underway for maybe a public vote on this. Is that right? Maybe a referendum?
Yep. So the governor signed the bill. It goes into effect July 1st. but there's a referendum going on. If we can get 17,508 signatures from South Dakota registered voters by towards the end of June, then it delays that, sends it to a vote this November to the people. So it delays the bill going into effect too until after the vote. So that's what we're trying to do now is get signatures, and there's just tremendous support everywhere I go. People are like, give me a petition, I want to sign it, So I think we'll have no trouble getting the signatures. I'm sure Summit will have all kinds of money coming at us after that to sway the vote. But there's no one that I know is actually for this thing. It's just they know it's a bunch of smoke and mirrors. They know the the Green New Deal is just a fake thing. But yeah, so I think we're going to easily get the signatures. Whether we get the vote or not, I don't know, but at least delay the law becoming into effect until November.
All right, so John, so we have this project that potentially, if you talk to proponents of it, it could put more money in the farmers' pockets. But all right, so let's say that's the case. How could it possibly be done to satisfy everybody? What kind of ideas are being presented here?
Well, I think the biggest way to satisfy most people is to just do it without using eminent domain. Um, or even a little bit of eminent domain. I tried passing a law. Right now in South Dakota, they don't have to have any voluntary easements to use eminent domain. They can use it for the whole project if they want to. So I tried passing a bill that said they need to get 90% voluntary easement and they could use eminent domain for the last 10%. Um, I think if you had a project that 90% of the people would sign on to, it's probably a pretty good project. So I wasn't afraid of that. No one liked it. The landowners didn't like it. They wanted 100% voluntary. The carbon people didn't like it. They wanted to use eminent domain as much as they could. So I think that's the biggest issue is the eminent domain part. I got landowners, neighbors that, they don't care about the money. They don't care if they get $1 million. They're like, it's my land. My ancestors settled it. I want to give it to my kids. I don't want a pipeline in it. I don't care what they're going to pay me. So it's not a deal about making it, getting them to the table. They don't want it. And I think that's the right. They own the land. It's private property. If they don't want a pipeline in it, then they should have that right. So if we can get away from that or even just use it for the last few percent, I think that would pretty much solve the problem for most people.
Now, I believe in other states. Now, it sounds like every state approaches this differently. I believe in, what is it, in Iowa, they have to have like 85% consensus or something like that to let a project through. How would South Dakota or compare to Iowa in this case?
Yeah, so right now South Dakota says if you're a pipeline company that's a common carrier, you can use eminent domain no matter what, which is really surprised me when I learned about that. I assumed too that you need to have a percentage of voluntary easements, like Iowa's IUB that determines that. Yeah, the way our law is written is any pipeline company that's a common carrier can use eminent domain. So a common carrier is something that everybody can use. Well, not everybody's going to use a carbon pipeline. So to say it's a common carrier is a pretty far stretch. To say it's carrying a commodity is a far stretch because they're taking this product, putting it in the ground. It's not a commodity. So really, by those two standards, they're not a common carrier doing a commodity. So they shouldn't have eminent domain anyway. Like I said, I tried to have a bill that had a percentage. I started at 90. We may be willing to move a little bit, just if we can, like I said, if you can get a large majority of people to sign up voluntarily, it's probably a good project. Now, some will claim they have 70% of their route voluntarily, but it wasn't really voluntarily because they had the threat of eminent domain right on the front page of the contract. So if you're reading something and say you have to make a deal with us or we will use eminent domain, that kind of makes you want to do it. But if they didn't have the authority to use eminent domain, they wouldn't be near at 70%. I don't believe, and they aren't now either because now they took over the other pipe, the Navigator one, so they don't have near 70% of the total route now. But that's all we're looking for is just if they can make a deal and if it's a good project and get landowners to sign on, that's fine. But just don't take our land to do it.
Now, how about, let's see, this goes through, the project would go through North Dakota too, right?
Correct.
How
Yeah.
do they approach it?
I'm not sure about that because it gets buried up in North Dakota too. So they have to, find the wells and where it all goes and stuff too. And I think going around Bismarck was a big deal for them. So we were so busy doing our stuff, I didn't really pay enough attention to what exactly is going on there. But even by us too, it's going right through highly populated areas. Sioux Falls is our biggest city in our state. And the Summit was going around the south and west side of Sioux Falls, and Navigator was going on the east side of Sioux Falls. It's like let's just, if we're going to do this thing, put it out in the middle of nowhere. We got places in South Dakota that are pretty sparse. That'll be a way better spot for it. I know you have to get to the ethanol plant, but once you're hooked up to it, get it away from population areas.
Interesting stuff. So now where do we go from here? You talked about the referendum effort underway. If somebody wants to learn more about that and how that applies, do you have a source that people can go to learn about it?
You can just look at our LRC website. It'll have the SB 201 on the LRC. You can see what the law says, what we're trying to repeal. And by repealing it, we're just getting back to what we had. Like I say, we tried passing like 12 laws to protect landowners. None of them passed. The only thing that did get passed was this one that takes the rights away from counties and landowners. We're just trying to stop that for now. But yeah, you can go to the LRC website and see the SB 201 that is passed. And if you're a South Dakota voter, you can find somewhere to get a petition and get a petition signed.
I would imagine you're probably open to fielding questions about it too, huh?
Oh yeah, yep.
All right.
What
Do you have a way that anybody can get in touch with you then if they have questions?
cell phone is 605-321-4073. I'd be happy to talk to people about it. I was just going to mention too, the carbon, carbon indexing scoring, it's kind of like Prop 12 in California for the hogs, right? Like no one is for Prop 12 because California just wants to tell us how to produce a pig. That's the exact same thing, right? Well, low carbon ethanol or low carbon corn now too, it's the exact same thing as, the other. You can't tell a difference by testing it, right? Just by someone else telling us how we're going to grow or how we're going to produce ethanol. So I'm just against that whole concept. But if people want to play games to make money, but it's just the concept of someone else telling us how to do something to produce something that's exactly the same. And who gave them the authority to tell us to do it? It's just a big mixed up mess that it's more than just this pipeline. It's a big deal.
Well, John, I appreciate you joining us today and explaining all that. It sounds like it could be an interesting summer in South Dakota when it comes to the political side of things. But it's a complex subject, and thanks for explaining it. I appreciate that a lot. And in the meantime, best of luck on 2024, getting that crop in there. Hopefully you can pull off a good one this year.
Yeah, I appreciate you reaching out and giving me the time to speak. And yeah, we're looking for good weather, and hopefully prices can go up too a little bit here. So.
Yeah. All righty. Well, John, thank you very much. John Sjaarda with us, a farmer and a legislator from South Dakota. Well, that'll do it for this episode. For producer Brianne Hendrickson, I'm Marlin Bohling. Catch you next time on the Comstock channel. Thanks for joining us on our Comstock YouTube channel. Don't forget, you can also find us on Facebook and TikTok as well. Futures trading involves risk. The risk of loss in trading futures and or options is substantial, and each investor and or trader must consider whether this is a suitable investment. Past performance is not indicative of future results.